Hi, everyone. How do you define disability? What shapes your perceptions of people with disabilities? Unless you live with a disability or have close ties with someone with a disability, your perceptions are likely shaped by images you see in the media, stories that are told through news organizations, on television shows, in movies and magazines, and on social media. Well, my graduate work inspired me to take a closer look at the role the media play in defining disability, and it started with a simple tweet. The television station where I work as an anchor and producer was doing a story on a high school student who was voted homecoming king. He happened to have Down syndrome. The reporter teased her story from the field on social media with this tweet. A special needs student is voted homecoming king at his high school. We'll introduce you to this special student tonight. Well, this happened the exact same week that my communication diversity class at the University of Alabama was discussing ways people with disabilities are portrayed in the media. Now, before that class discussion and a deeper dive into the media's role in shaping how society sees people with disabilities, I would not have given this tweet from a journalist a second thought. In fact, it sounded like a copy that I had read and probably even written before, time and time again, in fact. That tweet instantly put the focus on a disability rather than the person. That framing seems to be a pattern among journalists. Researcher and author Beth Holler, who you will hear from in just a moment, breaks down common media frames that are used to frame people with disabilities. The two common ones, medical and supercrip. The medical model looks at what is wrong with the person and not what the person needs. And then there is the supercrip model that paints the person with a disability as special because they live regular lives, and it's not uncommon for people to refer to them as inspiring. Well, what might surprise you is that people who live with disabilities don't want to be viewed as your inspiration. They don't want pity or special attention because they achieve the same things that you achieve. So my research then led me to a TED Talk from a young lady by the name of Stella Young. She's a comedian, a journalist, a disability activist. She describes herself as someone who just happens to go about her day in a wheelchair. Here's a portion of her TED Talk, I'm Not Your Inspiration. In a very humorous way, she breaks down society's habit of turning disabled people into what she calls inspiration porn. Take a listen.
You know, you may have seen images like this one. The only disability in life is a bad attitude. Or this one, your excuse is invalid, indeed. Or this one, before you quit, try. Yeah. These are just a couple of examples, but there are a lot of these images out there. You know, you might have seen the one, the little girl with no hands, drawing a picture with a pencil held in her mouth. You might have seen a child running on carbon fibre prosthetic legs. And these images, you know, there are lots of them out there. They are what we call inspiration porn. And I use the term porn deliberately because they objectify one group of people for the benefit of another group of people. So in this case, we're objectifying disabled people for the benefit of non-disabled people. The purpose of these images is to inspire you, to motivate you, so that we can look at them and think, well, however bad my life is, it could be worse. I could be that person.
So, representation matters. The words and images media practitioners use to represent groups help to frame public perception. What we write, what we say, and capture help the public form opinions, or in some cases perpetuate stereotypes. No one understands this better than Dr. Beth Holler, a disability studies and media studies professor at Towson University. She spent almost 30 years researching media images of disability. Beyond writing scholarly articles on the subject, she authored the book Representing Disability in an Ableist World. The book is described as a one-of-a-kind collection on advertising, news, entertainment, television, film, and internet new media. I talked to Dr. Holler about her research and what aspiring journalists can learn from it. One question I had for her, why is framing so critical?
I think it's because the mass media, the news media, the internet, new media, social media, all the medias that we have in our lives today are really the storytellers of our society. society, and a lot of times they're just as ignorant as the general public about disability issues and about making the world accessible. And another problem is they're still kind of relying on old kind of narratives of the past where people, openly pitied somebody with a disability and thought they should get charity when they actually wanted to get an education and get a job and be part of society like everyone else.
Dr. Holler and I also talked specifically about people living with autism. A chapter in her book is devoted to media representation of people on the autism spectrum. Here's what she had to say.
Specific disability, because sometimes it can be invisible, sometimes it's very apparent someone has autism, and then if you're a person with autism that is nonverbal, then somebody else is kind of in control of your life. So luckily now there's a lot of autistic self-advocates. There's actually a group called the Autistic Self-Advocates Network, and so even people with autism have more of a voice in media as well. So there's lots of more communication coming from the autistic community, and I think they want to control how they're represented as well.
My thanks to Dr. Holler for her time. So for a closer look at representations of autism, I turn to a program on the University of Alabama campus focused on helping autistic students develop skills for self-advocacy and social interactions that will help them navigate college and become independent adults. Take a look. Students on the autism spectrum at the University of Alabama look and act no differently from others walking around campus, and they have a network of mentors at the Child and Family Research Clinic to help them succeed.
So someone to help them kind of navigate things that are new, because college is a big transition from high school. So navigating those new things, getting acquainted with campus, learning how to get along with roommates, dealing with interactions with professors.
Dr. Megan Davis is the program director of the Autism Spectrum Disorder College Transition and Support Center, or UAACS. She works closely with students and their families and hears firsthand their frustrations with people's perceptions.
There's not a lot of portrayal in the media or TV shows or movies that cover individuals on the spectrum. I think I hear a lot from our students that will be unhappy with the portrayals as well, just because they feel like it's not representing who they are and the strengths that they have.
And often, she says, the representations they see are not necessarily accurate.
I think the biggest critique I hear is particularly with Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory.
We had dinner, played some games, and then I spent the night. Oh, you'll be happy to know that I now have a much better understanding of friends with benefits.
I don't think they ever particularly say that he is on the spectrum, but I think it's been widely assumed, and our students really don't like the fact that he's kind of portrayed as somewhat emotionless and uncaring in a lot of regards.
So the staff and students at UAACS are taking matters into their own hands.
So I've gone to departments on campus, like the history department or the psychology department, and just done kind of general trainings with their faculty and staff on how to interact with people with autism. We have a lot of students who will approach me and say, any opportunities you have for kind of social engagement or advocacy, let me know, because I want to be a part of it.
And Dr. Davis also says she believes that's important for journalists and other storytellers to consult with people on the spectrum and their families to get a more accurate portrayal. So finally, I spoke with Aundrea Brooks. He is a broadcast meteorology student at Mississippi State University. He was a student in my broadcast performance class and told us on the first day, I am high-functioning autistic. He later told me he wanted to erase any perceptions people had about him. Aundrea and I talked over Zoom about how storytellers can help.
I really do believe that, us as high functional autism people, we should be more representative and more, understood, and even maybe do little studies on what we are going through day by day. Maybe have, people come to our house like for a week, month, or how long it has to be in order for them to grasp the understanding of what we go through day by day, so they can have the statistics, the studies, and things that, so they be able to have a better understanding.
Do you think people find it surprising that you would choose a career like broadcast meteorology? You know, you want to be the TV weatherman. And so, do you see this as a way for you to be on a platform or a vocal advocate for people with disabilities to show the world that, you know, people with disabilities can function in all sectors of society?
Oh yeah, with the way that I persevered through this and learn and to apply what I have learned, and with the strength of God and with the support of family and friends, this really gives me that true test and that true, identity to say, hey, I'm a meteorologist and I have high functional autism, especially being broadcast meteorologist, and I am able to do the things like other people can.
All right, so what is the lesson for journalists and other practitioners who create content that includes people with disabilities? First of all, be mindful that the words and images you use matter. You create the frames in which the story is told. You affect the way the public sees other people. Consider ethics. One of the principles encouraged in the Code of Ethics written by the Society of Professional Journalists is to minimize harm. Are you telling a story in a way that helps or harms? And finally, whether your story is about someone who is blind, deaf, in a wheelchair, developmentally delayed, on the autism spectrum, to the extent that you can, let them tell their own stories in their own words. Now, here's a resource that might help. The National Center on Disability and Journalism at Arizona State University produced a style guide. It is for journalists, communication professionals, even the general public, to give guidance on appropriate and accurate language to use when writing or producing content about people with disabilities. Now, you can get a hard copy mailed to you free of charge. Send an email to Kristen Gilger at Arizona State at kristen.gilger@asu.edu. You can also download a digital copy of the guide at the website www.ncdj.org/style-guide. So I hope this information has been useful to you and will help you in your storytelling and in your related fields. Thanks for joining.